Hey everybody, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me today for another episode of Slab and Gab here on the channel. This is an ongoing series where we take a look at a graded card or multiple graded cards from my collection and I talk about them a little bit. It's as simple as that. Today's installment is going to be something a little bit different compared to what you're used to seeing here on the channel because this past winter, maybe a few weeks back now, I actually picked up 2 graded football cards. And this is probably the sport of the 4 major sports here in North America that gets the least amount of love here on the channel. But I do enjoy occasionally picking up a football card, especially something that's unique or just catches my eye for whatever reason. And today's duo of cards I think qualifies as unique. In fact, I'm willing to bet most of you, even if you're football collectors, have never seen these cards before. They're actually both Pop 1 at PSA in any grade. And there's a little bit of a rub to that. They're not probably as rare as you may be thinking, having heard that, but just a little teaser. So let's turn the camera around and take a look at these PSA pigskin cards. All right, so here we are with the 2 football slabs. And you're probably wondering why I have a Tim McCarver card up in the background here as a backdrop. And the reason is this is a buyback card. So I will spare you the full speech. I've talked about these plenty of times. In fact, even recently did a guest appearance on the Turn Back the Clock program with Dylan of Double D and Adam of Splendid Sports, where we covered these buyback cards. But they're a huge passion of mine on the baseball side of the house, and pulled out this Tim McCarver because it is from the 2015 buyback program. You can see here the 2015 Topps original stamp on the card. So what these are cards that were out in circulation. As the name would imply, Topps bought them back. They became a buyback in that sense, stamped them with a foil stamp, and then reissued them as kind of inserts or parallels in packs of product in 2015 in that case. Well, 2015 was also, I believe, the year that they lost their football license, Topps. So the 2015 Topps flagship football set, I think, was the final one through the present day. And they did do buybacks in the football release that year as well. And so recently, getting to think about it a little bit more, talking with Adam and Dylan, kind of reminded me of the coolness of these football buybacks. And I ended up finding 2 of them that were just too cool to pass up. So the first one I got is this Eric Dickerson. So this was a 1986 Topps card, as you can see initially. That very memorable design with the field lines on the side and the green border. Love the design of this set, even though I'm not a huge football guy. It is very memorable to me anyway. And of course, Dickerson, a very memorable player. I believe he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not an expert in football like I am in baseball, but relatively certain he's in the Hall of Fame. Was a very dominant running back throughout the 1980s. Regularly leading or being near the lead in, yardage, rush attempts, things like that. Was an offensive rookie of the year in 1983, so a few years prior to this. And actually in the year that this card came out, originally, 1986, he was the offensive player of the year that year. So just kind of a cool card to get. In the respect that it pays tribute to one of his best seasons, or came out, during one of his best seasons. In 86, he led the league in rushes, in yards per game, in total touches, and in total yards from scrimmage. He finished second in MVP voting, but did win the Offensive Player of the Year award for the only time in his career. So pretty awesome to get that card. Of course, got those fantastic rec specs that he was known for. Love the image here of him leaning on a teammate on the sideline and just chatting with a teammate. Just really, really cool. Here's a look at the back. So again, this is a standard 86 Topps football card. Topps bought it back. They stamped it with this 60th anniversary stamp here for Topps football in the upper right. And then this was issued, as you can see on the flip, in the 2015 Topps football release. So really cool card there. This is a PSA 8, as you can see. And as I mentioned, I think in the outset for the video, this is a Pop 1. So this is the only Eric Dickerson 86 buyback ever to be submitted to PSA. So yes, it got a grade of an 8, but it's the finest example, graded example that exists. Don't really care about the grade, just bought it because I thought it was a super cool item for my collection, being someone that's a fan of buybacks. And then, of course, like any good eBayer, once I picked up the Dickerson card, I got to looking at what else the seller may have available for sale and found a card that I found to be even more compelling than the Dickerson. It cost twice the price tag of what the Dickerson was, but still, you know, very reasonable and way under $100. I believe this card was maybe around $70 if I recall. From the same 86 top set, how about the Reggie White rookie card? So I was drawn to this one because, you know, for obvious reasons. This guy is a Hall of Famer, generally regarded as one of the best defensive players in the history of the game. At defensive end, was actually a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year during his career. The first time being the season after this card came out, 1987. And then he was also a Defensive Player of the Year much later in his career, I think in the late 90s. Just an absolute force on the field. I loved, you know, even more about this buyback, the fact that it's not only a Hall of Famer like the Dickerson, but it's a Hall of Fame rookie card in buyback format of one of the top defenders of all time. And then that Eagles green on the jersey here really just goes so well with the border. So, you know, to me, again, I'm not an expert here, just a fan of buybacks, but I think this is a pretty memorable and significant football card from the 1980s. And it's just really awesome to add a Hall of Fame rookie card to my buyback collection, even if it's not baseball. I just think the concept of buybacks is just beyond cool. You can see this one has a silver foil stamp in the upper corner, whereas the Dickerson was blue. There were different levels of rarity depending on the color of the stamp. But I submit that all of these are, you know, if not rare, certainly somewhat scarce. And, you know, my rationale behind that is, again, this one here is graded just a PSA 7, near mint 7. But when I last checked, this is also the only copy of this that has ever been submitted to PSA for grading. So I think that is just a really unique piece for any collection, certainly something that a Reggie White or even an Eagles collector, I think could see the promise in, and just a card that as a fan of buybacks, I'm really, really grateful that I was able to get into the collection. So pretty happy with both of these. You know, when I do stray into other sports that aren't my normal territory, I like to be very, very selective when I do that. I don't have the room or the motivation to have my football collection grow to be massive in size, but I like just, you know, occasionally picking up something that's significant or different that you don't necessarily see every day. And I certainly submit that that is the case for these two buybacks. So that's going to be a wrap for today's video. Just something a little bit different here on the channel with some football for a change. I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly appreciate you spending a few minutes of your time to check these buybacks out. And as always, I'll be back in the very near future with some more content. Till then, take care and keep enjoying the hobby, everyone.